June 10, 1921, the Afro-American, Baltimore, Maryland. Tulsa in ruins, best citizens dead. Leading men lost lives in Tulsa. New Mount Zion Baptist Church, worth $85,000, and Dreamland Theater burned. No girl raped. Correspondent declares the story of assault upon white girl a myth. The Associated Negro Press. Tulsa, Oklahoma, June 9. Tulsa lies stricken almost unto death. The city is literally in sackcloth and ashes, and it seems like a veritable miracle that it has escaped complete destruction. Whatever it enjoyed in the matter of thrift, enterprise, and a fair name has been, for the moment at least, destroyed by a wanton, fiendish mob, actuated by jealousy and race hatred, which sought to wipe out the Negroes and their section of the city, for the simple reason their prosperity and intelligent development was becoming too evident to suit the wishes of a certain element of whites. But little of the real truth has reached the outside world concerning the whole horrible affair. The attempted rape incident has turned out to be nothing more than a discovery of the fact that a giddy white girl had become infatuated with the comely young Negro lad of scarcely more than 20 years of age. He was arrested at the insistence of a group of white men, and the charge of attempted rape was lodged against him. The boy is yet in jail, but the girl has disappeared and the rape charge is about to fall to the ground. It is true that shortly after the arrest of the young colored man, a small number of Negro men gathered in the vicinity of the jail. Tulsa Negroes had decided that no lynching should take place in Tulsa without a blood sacrifice to prevent it. Rumors had reached the colored section that a lynching would be attempted by the whites. When the colored men arrived in the vicinity of the jail, they found a number of white men who immediately assumed a hostile attitude toward the colored men. It was not long before trouble was started, and the riot was well underway. The Negroes, fearing that their suspicions that a lynching was to be effected was about to be confirmed, fought with great desperation and courage. Within a short while, the Negroes were outnumbered by the whites, and they began a retreat which carried them to the north side of the Frisco Railroad tracks, where they made a stand so valiant and death-dealing that a SOS was sent out by the chief of the local police for soldier help. In the meantime, the casualties were mounting up, with the odds in favor of the colored combatants. It was near midnight when the militia arrived on the scene. This turned the tide of the battle to the whites again. The Negroes retreated. Then it was that the white hoodlums began to apply the torch to the business concerns of the colored people located along Greenwood Avenue. It was but a short step from the business section to the better residential section in this locality. Here, 3 prominent colored men met death, defending their homes from the torch-bearing mob. Dr. A.C. Jackson, the leading colored physician of the city, was killed on his doorstep, and his well-appointed home, touched by the torch and totally destroyed by the fire that followed. The same fate befell Wesley Williams, the wealthiest Negro in Tulsa, and the owner of the Dreamland Theater, also destroyed by fire. Williams was reputed to be worth more than $300,000. Dr. John Wayne died fighting, protecting his home, which was destroyed by fire. John Wheeler, one of the oldest employees at the First National, was killed by a stray bullet while on his way to the bank Wednesday morning. No colored man in Tulsa was more highly respected than John Wheeler. He had been in the employ of the First National for a long number of years, and was one of the familiar and popular figures of the city. He was buried with signal honors, the officials of the bank attending. The fires spread. White brutes applied the torch while the militia busied itself with the disarming and arresting of such Negroes who were unlucky enough to fall into their hands. In a short period of time, a great host of defenseless women and children were being driven helter-skelter by the unfeeling mob or made prisoners by the militia and police. The new Mount Zion Baptist Church, recently built at a cost of $85,000, was partially destroyed by fire. It was dedicated on the 10th of last April and is said to be the largest church structure owned by colored in the state of Oklahoma. Governor Robertson declared a state of martial law early Thursday morning. He He was greatly affected by the condition of things, which met him upon his arrival. He openly declared that a competent sheriff and a less cowardly chief of police would have put an end to the trouble without much effort. He has ordered an investigation and declares he is going to the bottom of the trouble to determine its origin and the causes which led up to the riot. An elaborate plan for relief has been devised, backed by the local Chamber of Commerce and prominent citizens. It is proposed to raise a fund of $500,000 at least for the purpose of rehabilitating the Negro section and thereby restore, as near as possible, normal, if not better conditions for that end of the city where the colored people lived. The Chicago Tribune has contributed $1,000 to the fund. The main cause for the riot goes back of the arrest of the young colored man who provided the immediate reason for the outburst. Retail dealers in the main section of Tulsa have long been envious of the business enterprises which the Negroes were sustaining out in their section. And then again, while the colored people were doing the menial and domestic work in Tulsa, they were making a more prosperous showing, on the whole, than the poor whites. These situations, added to the devilish work of agitators, made it rather easy to start a conflagration of hate and prejudice whenever a match was applied to the strained conditions. The discovery of a love affair between a white girl and a colored youth furnished the match, and Tulsa lies today stricken to its very heart. June 10, 1921, the Afro-American, Baltimore, Maryland. Tulsa, a horror and a benediction. The race war in Tulsa, Oklahoma last week is at one and the same time a horror and a benediction. When the first word of the clash was sent ahead on the wires, millions of colored people shuddered. They visualized Tulsa's 15,000 colored people battling against 5,000 whites to keep a Negro from being lynched without a trial. They saw them succeed, but in the effort, lose their homes and churches and business houses, burnt up and utterly destroyed by bloodthirsty Southerners who style themselves a superior race. Last Sunday, Tulsa's colored section, separated by a railroad track from the whites, was a model of Negro progress. It contained, besides its many fine homes, beautiful churches, a newspaper plant, a drugstore, a modern hotel, and a department store, which did a business of $100,000 a year. Oil made quite a few colored men of the town wealthy, and they developed a community which prospered without the aid of white banks and merchants. This was on Sunday, and Wednesday night, smoking ruins told their own story of death and destruction. This caused the feeling of horror in millions of hearts of American Negroes. But this is not all of the story. Millions of thoughtful Negroes will thank God for the Tulsa riot as another index of progress. 10 years ago, Negroes would not fight when white men got ready to lynch one of their number. There may be hundreds of rural spots in southern United States where no public protest would be made should crackers start a lynching party today. But world knows what happened in Chicago, Omaha, Washington, and East St. Louis when mobs started on a rampage. Today, Tulsa knows there are black men who would rather die than submit to mob law, and we have an idea when the city is rebuilt, there will never be the need of any federal law to put an end to lynching there. We believe that Tulsa has got enough of mob spirit to last it a generation. This is the benediction of the Tulsa race riot. As long as we have yellow journals like the Tulsa Daily and the local Sun and American, which feature disorderly cases involving black men and white women, and close their columns to the same class of cases when white men molest black women, there will be lynchings or rumors of lynchings, unless black men will resolve with God, as they did at Tulsa, that the law will be upheld, even though it cost home and church and business and life.